and welcome Mindsetters this session of Learn Extra Live for grade 10s, maths, literacy. Guys, I hope you're ready. You've got your pens, pads out, and you're going to make some notes. I'm Ty, and I've got Haley here with me who's going to be taking us to today's session. How are you doing, Haley?
I'm well, how are you?
Good.
Good.
So, what are we doing today?
Today we're going to carry on with revision that we did a bit last week.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to it. I've got some nice questions, and I think we're just going to have some fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Always fun to have fun.
Always fun, always fun.
All right, so while you make your way across the board,
Okay.
Mindsetters, you know the drill. You get on the page, get chatting to me. You know the link, www.facebook.com/learnextra. Let me know what you guys are thinking. If you're lost anywhere, if you need help, post. I can't read your brains through the screen, so you have to do it for me. So make sure you have your phone in front of you, you have your laptop, or you have your pad, whatever you have in front of you, so you can pay attention and make notes. But for now, this is where we're going to continue with the show. So, Haley, take it away.
Thanks, Ty. Hi, grade 10s. Okay, like I said, we're going to do revision, but before we start, we need to get our numbers. So I hope Ty's got it all ready for us. So let's go. Last week, we were on 17,931. So we are getting closer to that 20. Ty, we are getting so close. So what's our numbers today?
Today, it's 18,404.
18,404.
So close.
So
So
close.
close.
It seems
feel
like we're
it.
growing at about 500 a week, so we're looking at about like 1.5, so possibly like 3 weeks. I'd say
Yeah,
that we're going to be there in about 3 weeks, maybe with spring school, maybe even
Even
sooner.
more.
So
To make-
just
but
carry on telling
telling
your
friends to
friends
tell
and
friends, yeah.
tell friends to tell friends to tell friends. Okay, guys, let's carry on with today's lesson. So, starting off, we're going to be looking at some plans, and we're going to go through this question. So, using the floor plan of the mall, answer the questions that follow. So, before we start, we're going to look at our floor plan. And I always say to you, you know what, look at a diagram or a picture or a graph or whatever it is and try and understand it before you actually go through the questions. So we're looking at a floor plan. We can see there's a whole lot of numbers. We've basically got L1s, LO, L15. So those are kind of your shop numbers. We've got a few shops that have actually got names, like we've got the Checkers Hyper, I've got the CNA, ones that are standing out. Woolworths, which has just got the W, so just our symbol. Edgar's. We've got these like funny black-looking things, which we'll discuss in a moment, and color-coded. So this is kind of a plan. It is also a map. And where would we use it? We would use it if we go to the shopping center to see where we are and where we need to go. Right, let's read through the questions. So, what is the store number for the CNA? So let's go back to our plan and get a pen, and we see that the CNA is here, and it's L51. So, CNA is over there, and the number is L51. So quite an easy question for us to start off this question. And there often are these like easy questions. And don't be scared of the mark allocation, because very often that'll be 2 marks. And the skill that we're asking you is, can you actually read and interpret a map? So don't worry about the mark allocation if it's literally 2 marks for saying that. Hey, how do you know that Stutterford's is a multi-level shop? Right, so first of all, let's find Stutterford. So let's change our color, and we see that Stutterford is over here. And the number is LOC. How do we know it's multi-leveled? Well, that little sign is what tells us that it's multi-leveled, because those are escalators. Now, the only reason we would have escalators in a shop is if we could go upstairs. And why do I say upstairs? Because L is usually like lower level, so I'm assuming that it's going upstairs. So we can write that in because we've got an escalator inside the store. Right. Which shop has the greatest floor space on this level? Now, that's the kind of question that is a little bit harder for us to interpret. Now, what you can do is you can take your ruler and you can look at these things, but we're going to estimate the floor space, and we're going to see which has the biggest. Now, you can see these little shops kind of where there are no names, don't have the hugest floor space. So what would I be looking at? Maybe Stutterford's has a big floor level. Edgar's is a funny shape. Right, let's actually highlight these. I don't think yellow is going to work, so let's try green. Right, Edgar's is a funny shape, so I think that we've got bigger than Edgar's. I think the CNA might even be bigger than Edgar's. Okay, Stutterford's looks like a big shop. Okay, I think that's fairly big, but I think your biggest is probably your Checkers Harper. So that looks like about the biggest shape. And we're going to be estimating this. So what I suggest you do is actually measure this. Now this is a rectangle, so it's quite easy to work out your area. Measure down and measure across. But if I take this measurement, in fact, let's try to do that. If I take this measurement here and measure it against there, you can see that this is longer than that is wide. So I'm going to go with Checkers Harper is the biggest. So which shop? And we're going to say that it's Checkers Harper. Right. Give directions from the Woolworths entrance on how to get to the CNA. Perfect. So Woolworths entrance. Now we're going to, let's change our color. If we're going to go into the Woolworths entrance, this is your entrance. And this is what we would call the Woolworths entrance. So we need somewhere that goes from the outside of the shopping center inside. So we go along this corridor, okay, all the way to Woolworths. And then we're going to be turning, which direction? I don't think that blue is going to work. Let's try yellow. So we're going to go along here. Is the yellow working? The yellow's not working. Let's delete the yellow. Right. So we're going to go along there, and we're going to be turning up, which is going to be turning left. And we're going to be going to the CNA. So we carry on straight till we get to the end, that corridor. And then we're going to turn right and carry on straight, and you'll see CNA on the right-hand side. Now, if you need to, turn your page around to kind of get your orientation, whether it's left or right, and those are the kind of instructions that you can give. So I think that that's fairly easy. I don't think I need to write those in. What do the blue and yellow areas indicate? So let's go back to our map. What do the blue and the yellows indicate? Now, when we were going along to the CNA, what we were doing, we were walking along the blue, okay? And then we kind of walked into the yellow. So what do those indicate? The blue and the yellow indicate the passageways. I was trying to think of the word. Having a word problem today, Ty. Okay.
No, it's fine. We all get jammed occasionally.
Right. So it is the passage. It is actually where you're going to be walking. And why they change colors, I'm not really sure. And Ty and I were actually talking about this earlier, in fact last week, because we were supposed to show you this last week. And neither of us could work out why they change colors, but they do, clearly, and there must have been a reason. And Ty and I couldn't think of it, but maybe you guys could. And if you can think of a reason, maybe they can let us know. Post on the page. Okay? And there you go. Let's move to the next question. Well, next part of this question. Right, we still have our map. Using the floor plan, Peter measures the dimensions of Checkers. He finds that the length is 1.5 centimeters and the breadth is 0.6 centimeters. So he has measured it for you, which is really great. Now it says calculate the floor area of the Checkers Harper in meters squared if the scale of the floor plan is 1 to 20,000. So we're going to use scale. The first thing we need to do is we need to convert the measurements that Peter calculated, convert them into meters, and then we can work out the area. So let us do that. So the first thing we're going to do is work on our length. So our length was 1.5 centimeters. We've got our scale. Our scale is 1 to 20,000. Which means that 1 centimeter on our map is equal to 20,000 centimeters in real life. So to get how many centimeters this is, we're going to multiply this by the 20,000. And that's going to give us how many centimeters that length is in real life. So let's get our calculator out. And we say 1,5 times 20,000, and we get an answer of 30,000 centimeters. Okay, let's get back to the... That is 30,000 centimeters. but we don't talk in centimeters, so we're going to convert that into meters. We're going to divide by 100, and we see that it is, okay, so we can just cancel our zeros, so it's 300 meters. Right, that's quite a big store, 300 meters long. And
That's
it's
quite a long walk.
Quite a long walk. I'd hate to have forgotten something right at the front.
That's,
and then have to
it's
go
a long
back
walk to
it.
check out. Get it?
Absolutely.
Long walk to check out.
Okay, let's do our breadth. Right, our breadth, okay, let's change our color. So the breadth we said was 0.6 centimeters. And again, we're going to times that by our scale of 20,000. Let's get our calculator out. 0.6 times 20,000. And we get an answer of 12,000. Right, 12,000 is 12,000 centimeters. And again, converted into meters. So there are 100 centimeters in a meter. So we can cancel our zeros, and we get 120 meters. And that's our breadth. But now remember, asked us for our area in squared meters. So what do we need to do now? We need to actually work out the area. So our area of a rectangle is length times breadth. I always like to write in the formula. I think it makes it easier to actually not make mistakes. And our length was 300, and our breadth was 120. Now, I've left out the meters. I've left out the units. I find it easier without the units. And you've heard me say this many times before, but don't forget your units in your final answer. So let's get our calculator out and say 300 times by 120, and we get 36,000. All right, get a pen. Is 36,000 meters squared. And that is a huge shot. I think it's time to move on to the next question. Right. Okay, this question is now dealing with a little bit of probability. Shayna has just got her driver's license. She wants to buy a motor car and has narrowed down her options to the following. So she can choose her model that she wants to choose from. She's decided she can go with a VW Polo or a Toyota Yaris. The type of car that she can use, that she can get, is a sedan or a hatchback. And the color, finally, she can go with white, black, or red. So those are quite different combinations. Draw a tree diagram to show all the possible combinations Shayna has for her car. Now, we're assuming in this case that it really makes no difference, that there isn't one particular car that is more favorable. So we're going to just show all the possibilities, and we need to draw a tree diagram. So how do we start a tree diagram? We start in the center with one of our outcomes. So the first was the model. We're going to do model, then type, then color. Was a VW Polo or a Toyota Yaris. So we can go with the VW or the Toyota Yaris. And I'm going to use kind of these terms to just simplify it. So that was our model. Now we've got the type. So for each one of these cars, she can now have a sedan or a hatchback. And for the Toyota Yaris, she can still have a sedan and a hatchback. And that's what's important about a tree diagram, is always continue. Every branch needs to carry on with our choices. And the final choice she had was the color. And for our color, we had three choices. It could have been white, or black, or red. So we could have had white, or black, or red. And I've still got more branches down here, so I need to add them. We've got a white, black, or red. And finally, white, black, or red. Now, when we go back and read the tree diagram, I always suggest that you take a highlighter. And I'm going to take a different color. I haven't used orange. start at the beginning and highlight every part of your branch because that'll give you all your outcomes. So in this case, we've got a VW sedan that can be white. So it's a VW, that's not a VW. Let's try that again. Okay.
Not sure they make VHs. With
Right.
WHs.
It's a VW sedan that is white. And go back to the beginning. So I've got my VW sedan black. The VW sedan that is black. And go back to the beginning. So we keep going back to the beginning. So I've got a VW sedan that is red. VW sedan and it is red. And now that I've highlighted all those parts of the branch, I go back to the beginning and highlight the next. So now I've got VW. Now we've got a hatchback that's white. So we've got VW hatchback that's white. And a VW hatchback black. VW hatch that's black. And VW hatch that's red. VW hatch that's red. And this is going to give us all our combinations. So let's quickly finish this up. So now we've finished all our VWs. They're all highlighted. So we've now got our Toyota sedan white. So we've got our Toyota sedan and it's white. The Toyota sedan that's black. Sedan and black. I've got a Toyota sedan and red. And I've finished all the sedans, and now I've got the Toyota hatchback white, a Toyota hatchback black, and I'm getting tongue-tied, Toyota hatchback red. So that gives us every single combination. And now we can count them. So we've got 3, 6, 9, we've got 12 total outcomes that we can have. Okay, let's carry on answering the questions. Right. Shayna does not have any preference, and there's an equal probability that she will choose any of the options above. What is the probability that she will choose a red car? So now that we've done all that work creating the tree diagram, let's go back to our tree diagram and see how many red cars there were. So we know that the outcome, total possible outcome, was 12. How many are red? Well, there's a red one. That's 2. That's 3. And that's 4. And if you read through all your possibilities, there are only 4 that can be red. So remember your probability. We write it as a fraction. So the probability is 4 out of the total possible outcomes, that is 12. And we can simplify this, but it's really, it doesn't have to be simplified unless they ask you, and they haven't said anything about simplifying it, but let's just do it in case. So we're going to make it 1 out of 3, and we could also write it as a percentage. So look out for the ones that are going to say percentage, or they're going to say write it as a decimal, but leave it as a fraction if you want. I think, Ty, do you think we should take a quick break and come back to this question? I think so. I think so. I think that maybe we must give you a little bit of time to just kind of regroup. So I'm going to hand you over to Ty to say whatever you need to say.
All right. Well, whatever I need to say is just to make sure that your mindsetters keep on posting on the page. Keep letting me know what you guys think. If you're lost anywhere, if you have any specific questions that you'd like to ask, get them on the page. But for now, we can see you after this break. And welcome back, Mindsetters. Hope you had a nice little break. You went and did whatever you had to do. And you went to go change your uniform, put bags down, whatever you had to do. Now you need to be paying attention with your pens, pads out, and making notes. For now, this is where I hand over to Haley. Tracy, what am I saying now? Haley, who's going to continue the rest of the show. Haley,
Or just say thanks, Paul, or...
Yeah, you know, these name things.
Names happen. Okay, we've only been working together for quite a while, but okay. Thanks, Ty. Right. As I was saying, let's finish this question, and I know there wasn't a lot, but anyway, we gave you a break anyway. So the next question is, what is the probability that she will choose a VW Polo hatchback? So let's go back to our tree diagram and count how many VW hatchbacks there are. So we are, and now I'm not sure what color I haven't used, so let's go back with purple. Right, so I'm looking for VW hatch. So there's my VW hatch. I'm going to mark it with a cross, a VW hatch, and a VW hatch. So clearly there are 3. And what was our total outcomes? 12. So that's quite simple. It becomes, let's get some paper here, it becomes 3 out of our total possible 12, and we can simplify it if we need to a quarter. We can also change it to a percentage, like I said earlier. Now, before I carry on to the next question, because I think that's the end of our probability that we've got for today's session, I think there was something on Facebook, so I'm going to just hand over to Ty for a sec, who's going to read out a post from
Pleasure.
Pleasure. So let's see if we can help Pleasure at the moment.
Pleasure wanted to find out if they say draw a two-way diagram of a coin, what do I do?
Okay, so Pleasure, I hope that you're listening. What we need to do whenever we draw a two-way diagram, okay, let's set it up in one color. And we're going to be looking, in this case, we're going to be looking at 2 coins. Because a two-way diagram needs 2 events to occur. So each coin can land on heads or tails. So when we set up our two-way diagram, we set it up in such a way that we've got one event on the top and one event on the side. And I like to use different colors. So I'm going to set up the table, and then I'm going to fill in. So right, let's go. Our first coin can land on heads or tails. And my second coin, so that's one coin, my second coin can land on heads or tails. So this is now the combination of the 2. So what you do is you write down, so we're going to work with the first coin first. So we were working in purple. So you write down the events going all the way down your column. So we're going to be doing, this is landing on heads. Right, so we're writing the same thing all the way down. And the second one is landing on tails. So going all the way down. Then we go and we start with our second coin. So our second coin was in the turquoise, and now we're writing across. So our second coin lands on heads or lands on tails. And then when we look at the outcomes, we'll see these are the outcomes. I'm going to, the outcomes are these ones. Right, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 outcomes. So we've got 4 outcomes in total. We've got 2 heads, we've got tails, heads, heads, tails, and tails, tails. And now, depending on what the question is that they ask you, you can use all your outcomes that you have to determine the answer. So my probability of landing on 2 heads will be 1 out of 4. My probability of landing on 2 tails will be 1 out of 4. And then if order makes no difference, my probability of hitting a heads and a tails will basically be 2 out of 4. Or we can simplify that to 1 out of 2. So Pleasure, I hope that that actually helps you. And remember that your table you can do with it's 2 events, but you can do, like we can do 2 dice, which has got like 6 sides. So then we would just write 1 to 6 across, 1 to 6 down, and just fill in the table, just filling carefully. And I hope that actually helps. So I think we should move on to the next question. Okay. Right, we can find our next question. Okay, our next question deals with Facebook and Twitter. So Facebook and Twitter are 2 international social networking sites. Individuals can use Facebook and Twitter to communicate with one another via the internet, which is what you guys are doing with us. That's why I love this question. The following statistics about Facebook and Twitter come from the March 2012 article on the website, and they've given you the website address. So if you'd like, you can go and check it out. But I think the stats are quite good. So Facebook has 835.6 million users. Now, how's that for a number, Ty? Of which
That's a lot of people.
of which 376 million are male. So I think that's a wonderful statistic. Twitter has 225 million users, of which 101.25 million are males. I think those are wonderful numbers, and they're huge numbers, and it's nice to be able to deal with big numbers. So calculate the difference between the number of users for the 2 social network sites. So what do we need? We need to minus the 2 numbers. So we're going to take our bigger one, which is 835.6. And remember, this is million. And we're going to minus our Twitter, which was 225 million. Now, we can carry on dealing with millions. If you want to change it into numbers with a whole lot of zeros, then do me a favor. Take this number. Let's just take our 835. Okay? So 835,6. Take that number and multiply it by 1,000,000, because then you'll know how many zeros. So let's just do that quickly. So 1,000,000 is 6 zeros. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you can see how many zeros you actually need in your number. But the other thing we could do is we could actually carry on and give our answers in million, because the question was in millions. So let's simplify that and see, say 835,6 minus 225, and get an answer which is 610,6. That's the difference, but that's 610,6 million people. So let's get our question, 610,6. So the answer to that is 610,6 million. And don't forget that million is very important, million people. There's a very big difference between 610 and 610 million. Okay, and let's see what the next part of this question is. Determine the number of female users of Twitter. So what do we know? We know that Twitter has 225 million users, and we know how many males there are. So all we need to do is minus the one from the other. So we're going to take our 225 million, and we're going to minus the number of males, which was 101,25 million, and get our answer. So let's get our calculator out. So we've got 225 minus 101,25. And remember again, that answer is in million, 123,75. Let's get a pen. 123,75, and don't forget the million. And this is now females. It was actually a very interesting stat for me, because you can see quite clearly that there are more females on Twitter and there are more females on Facebook. And it was actually quite an interesting stat. Would you ever have thought that?
It's very possible, because the thing is, it's a lot. In fact, no, before I put my foot in my mouth,
Okay.
I'd rather not.
Okay, I found it very interesting. I think possibly you've got more like housewives, maybe people that don't work. Maybe there's more females doing that. It doesn't give us any statistics about the age.
Oh.
And it would be very interesting to see what the age. Like if we had to look at teenagers, I'd probably guess that there's probably not much of a difference. But it was quite an interesting stat. I enjoyed it. And I love numbers and things like that. Okay, let's see what the next question is. Calculate the percentage of Facebook users that are male. Right, great. Soon as we see the word percentage, what do we know we need to do? We know we need to times by 100. So now we just need to work out what our fraction is that we need to multiply. So we want the Facebook users that are male. So we're going to do of the Facebook users, and in this case we've got 835,6 million. Okay, and we want to know how many percentage that are males, so we can take our males are 376 million. Now, when I type this onto my calculator, I can actually ignore the millions, because my millions kind of cancel each other. So I can take my fraction of 376, let's get our calculator out. So it's 376 divided by 835,6. I'm going to press equals, because remember your calculators do BOD maths, and it's always easier to put an equals in, and then times that by 100, and we get our percentage 44,997. Now we need to round that off to 2 decimal places, which means it's going to become 45%. So I'm going to write that number out and then just discuss the rounding. 44.997. Okay, so let's get a little bit. It was 44, I need a color, 44 0.997, and that was a percentage. Now, when we're rounding to 2 decimal places. I need to look at the second last number, or the second decimal place, and look at the number before it. So that's a 7, which means that goes up, and which means that's going to go up, because that's going to go up by 1, so it's going to become 10. That's going to become 10, so that's going to go up. And that's why I said it was 45%. Right, let's see what the next part of the question is. Right, use the graph below to calculate the number of internet users in Africa. So now we've got a graph, and whenever we've got a graph or a table, we need to interpret that first. So our graph is our internet users in the world distributed by world region, and this was from 2011. So we can quite clearly see, let's get a little bit more space, we can quite clearly see that these are all the internet users, and it's been divided into sections, and it's given us the percentage, and it's color coded. So we can see 44.8, and that is Asia. And also right next to the names of the area, the region, it actually gives us the percentage as well. So we can see that 44.8 was Asia. So in this case, it's really easy for us to read off where Africa is. So one, we can see the color. So let's look. Africa is that color, and we can find it on our map. There it is. There, that's Africa. So it's 6.2%. Alternatively, we could have just read there. Africa 6.2%. So that is what we're looking for. 6.2%. Okay. And now, you know what I want to use with this? I'm actually going to change this question slightly, because it hasn't given us the number of people in total. So I'm going to use our Facebook. We're going to like cheat a little bit. We're going to use our Facebook number, and we're going to assume that everybody that's on Facebook is this graph represents. So our Facebook users was 835.6. So we've got 835.6 million people. So we're going to want to know how many of those are from Africa. So that's what we're going to look at. We times it by the percentage. So let's do that on our calculator. And I'm going to leave it as 835.6 times by 6.2%, and it's 51.8072. That's 51.8072. That was million. So million users are from Africa. And what we can do at this point, in actual fact, is let's take that number and multiply it by a million. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we can see that it's 51,807,200. So let's write that out fully. Actually, it represents 51,807,200 people. Perfect. So that gives us our answer. Now, if you come across a question like this, and I know, as I was actually typing this question this morning, I was actually thinking, I knew there was a mistake somewhere, and I couldn't remember where the mistake was. So I changed that to internet users. But if you do come across something like this, where there's no numbers, then make an assumption, but tell your examiner what kind of assumption you're making. So in this case, we assumed that we're using the Facebook numbers. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Right. We're dealing with a little bit of finance now. So we've got Lior hopes to buy an iPad. She wants to save some money for that. She works as a waitress in a Johannesburg restaurant. She gets paid 200 Rand for a weekday shift and 250 for a Saturday shift. So during September, she worked 4 Saturday shifts and 20 weekday shifts. She's really serious about getting this iPad. She also received 2,000 Rand in tips from the customers. Calculate her gross salary. That is the salary before any deductions are made that she got for September. So we've got a few things going on here. She worked weekends, she worked during the week, and she got tips. So what do we know? Let's see exactly what we know. During the week, so we've got week, we've got weekend, And we've got tips. So that's where she's earned all her money. So how many weekdays have we got? We see here that she worked 20 weekdays, and for a weekday shift, she earned 200 Rand for a weekday shift. So we can get an answer for that. Then the weekends, we can see that she worked 4 Saturdays. So it was 4 weekend shifts, and on the weekend, she earned 250 Rand. And finally, her tips, and we can get an answer for that, her tips, she earned a total of 2,000 Rand. So if we multiply this all out, we get 4,000 Rand for that. 4 times 250 is 1,000, and you can use your calculators for this. And finally, we've got here's 2,000. And we add these all up, so she earned a total of 7,000 Rand for the September, for that particular September. Set out your work so that your teacher and your examiner can actually understand every step that you're doing. You know, there was an easier way to probably do this. I could have done it all in one step, but it makes it harder for your examiner. If you write little notes, it also is easier for you to deal with, and it also makes it, you know, it's so easy to be distracted and kind of you lose your train of thought. So if you write little notes, you'll know exactly where you are, even if you are distracted. Okay, let's see what our next question is. We're going to now calculate her net salary. That's her salary after deductions, if the following deductions are made. Right, she pays an income tax of 855, her medical aid fund of 250, and finally, unemployment or UIF of 75. So we're going to have her gross salary, which is what we calculated before, minus deductions, is going to give us her net salary. Her net salary. So let's add up those 3 values. So we're going to add these up. Okay? And let's get our calculator out. And we add those. We've got 855 plus 250 plus 75. And 1180. Right. So that added up became 1180. Don't forget your rands. Okay, so our gross salary we calculated was 7,000 Rand. Minus our deductions, and I'm actually going to write it out as 855 plus the 250 plus 75, and I'm going to get equals, so let's just rewrite this. Let's not be lazy. Minus, so we've added that up, 1180, and we get an answer of, I didn't need a calculator to do that. So we've got 7,000 Rand minus 1180, and it's our 5820. So her gross salary is 5820. And have we answered the question? They wanted to know her net salary, and I think we've answered the question for that. I think possibly it's time to take a little bit of a break and come back to this question when we get back.
All right.
I think
so
so.
mindsetters, keep going on the page. Chat to me. Let me know. If you're like Pleasure and you have a question, make sure you keep posting. So Pleasure, so you know, I've seen your question. I'm going to ask Haley. But make sure if you want to get that answer, you come back after this break. See you soon. And welcome back, Mindsetters. Hope you had a nice little break there. Now you're back, you're ready, you got your pens and pads out, you've got your phone in front of you so you can make sure you can talk to us on the Facebook page. And you've got your books in front of you so you can make notes. But for now, this is where I hand over to Haley who's going to continue the show. Haley, take it away.
Thanks, Ty. Welcome back, guys. Okay, let's carry on and see what happens with this sum. So we worked out our net salary. Let's go to our next part of our question. Right. What percentage of her salary does she pay in tax? So we're going to go with her salary. What percentage does she pay? So she paid tax. She paid, and we're just looking at the tax amount that she paid. She paid 855 Rand in tax. What percentage? As soon as I see that, I know I need to times by 100. And we're looking at tax over her salary. And I'm going to take her gross salary because that is what she's basically paying her tax on. But I don't think that they would mark you wrong whether you use the net or the gross salary. And I think that you could probably fight with your teacher about that because it doesn't say which salary. So we're going to use the gross salary because that's the portion that she pays tax on. So let's work that out. And we've got 855 divided by 7,000 equals, and times that by 100. So we see that she pays 12.21%. So let's get our pen out. So she pays 12.21%. And that is what she pays tax. Let's move on to the next part of the question. Okay. What does she pay? What shall she pay for tax if income tax is increased by 2.5%? So we've just calculated that she pays 12.21%. Okay. Now we're going to increase this by 2.5%. So we're actually moving it up. So let's get our calculator out and say our 12.21, and we're going to add 2.5%, and we're going to get an answer of 14.71. So now we take in, let's write that down. So that's basically, what are these pins? 14.71. That's what it's being increased to. Now she was paying tax on the full amount, so we now have our 7,000 Rand that she earned, and times that by 14.71% because we want to know the amount that she pays. So we can take our 7,000 that she earned times by 14.71%, and we get an answer of 1029.7. Right. So that was 1029.7, and remember it's money and we need to have two decimal places, so 0.70. So what shall she pay? She shall now pay that amount. Right, let's move on to the next part of the question. And in this case, Leor draws a monthly budget for herself. So we've got her net salary, the total, and then all her expenditures. So calculate the missing values in your answer book. Right, her net salary we calculated as 581. What did we calculate it at? 581. Let's go back and check. I might need you to remember this number. Go back, it's a few pages back. We calculate 5820. I knew it was something like that. Right. 5820. So clearly her total, and that's the salary that she earns, is 5820. So A and B are actually the same number. But now her total for her expenditure, we need to add up all these values. So let's get our calculator out, and we're going to just add all these values. I'm going to move my calculator over so that I can see what I'm doing. So my transport is 450, plus my saving of 250, plus rent of 680, plus she's food for 700, and check as you're typing into your calculator that you're getting the numbers correctly. That's clothes, entertainment and airtime, 335. We've got there you see, 335. I said check and then I made a mistake. And we get 2765. So our answer here is 2765. All right, calculate the missing values, and we've done that. Let's move to the next part of the question. No, there was another part of the question. What is the state of her finances? So state of her finances, basically, how much does she earn? So we've got her income minus her expenses. So we had 5820 minus what our expenses were of 2765. That's going to give us how much she has. Now, we can quite clearly see that she's got a surplus. So what is the state of her finances? She's basically in a very good state. Because at the end of the month, she has way more money than she needs, which is great. Now we'll do the sum and do the calculation to show all the numbers. But let's move on to the next question, because I absolutely love this question. Right. we have a graph below that shows Mark and Zach's bicycle race of 50 kilometers. They were allowed to take only one 10-minute break during the entire race. So let's see what we have here. We have a graph. We've got two different color graphs, okay? So we've got our first one, which is our green graph, going up. We've got a break, and then carrying on, and that's Mark. So that first one is Mark. And then the second one going this like yellow line, and having a break, and going up, and then getting faster here is Zach. So we've got the two different races. And we've got our distance, 50 kilometers. They both finished on 50 kilometers. That's how long the race was. And we got our time in minutes along this axis, the x-axis. Use the graph to answer the following questions. How long does Mark take to cover 30 kilometers? So we need to do two things in this case. We need to find 30 kilometers, okay, and we need to find Mark. So Mark is this blue line. So I'm going to take my 30 kilometers and draw a line to his graph. And then we're going to draw a line down from his graph. So how long does it take him? It takes him 40 minutes. So let's write in that number. So it takes him 40 minutes. How long does Zach take to cover 30 kilometers? So now we're going to go 30 kilometers again. Let's change colors for Zach. So we got 30 kilometers, but Zach is the other line. So I'm going to draw a yellow across and yellow down. It takes him 60 minutes to cover the same distance. Takes him 60 minutes. Right, let's see what else they're asking about these two riders. Calculate the average speed in kilometers per hour for the first 20 minutes for Mark. So your average speed is kilometers per hour. And that's great. That gives me the clue. I need to take my kilometers and divide it by my time in hours. So I first want to work out 20 minutes. So how far do they go in 20 minutes? And we're looking for Mark. So I'm going to draw a line up to Mark's graph. There's 20 kilometers. And Mark's graph, it takes him 15. He does 15 kilometers in 20 minutes. So my speed here is 15 kilometers, and this is in 20 minutes. I need to convert that into hours. So I'm going to say 20 over 60 and do that calculation first. So let's see if we can do that on our calculator. Do my calculator back here. So I've got 20 divided by 60, get an answer for that. And I'm going to say 15 divided by that answer. And he travels at 45 kilometers per hour. So we're going at 45 kilometers per hour. And let's see how far Zach goes in 20 minutes. So again, we're going to take our 20 minutes. And Zach, no, let's get a line. Hey, we're going to find Zach. And Zach goes 10, whoops, a new line. He goes 10 kilometers in 20 minutes. And the other thing we could have done is we could have said, well, okay, let me change this view. So he goes 10 kilometers in 20 minutes. So if I times by 3, I'm going to get to an hour. So I'm going to times that by 3 and see that it's 30 kilometers per hour. So there's different ways of doing the calculations. So we can see that he's going at a slower speed. Let's see how much more I can get through of this question. Who was faster during the first 20 minutes? Well, we can do this in two ways. We can see after 2 minutes who actually got further, or we can go back to our calculations that we've just done, and clearly we can see that Mark was faster. So Mark was faster from our calculations that we've done. And let me see if I can get to the next part of the question. I know I'm running out of time. If the race started at 7:40, I'm going to try squeeze it in. If the race started at 7:40, at what time did Mark take a break? I just want to go to the graph and say, well, where did he take a break? He took a break where he wasn't moving in distance. So clearly your breaks are those points there. So we just need to work out when he finished the break and then add that to the time. No, not when he started the break. And add that to the time that they tell you the race started. I feel like I'm rushing again. Okay, guys, I think that I'm probably running out of time. And rather than actually trying to rush it, just be able to read your graph properly. So know that it's a straight line. If it's not moving up in distance, he's actually taking a break. And quite clearly, we can see that it's 10 minutes. It was from 30 to 40. So, and they were only allowed a 10-minute break. So they take their breaks at different time. So I think on that note, I'm going to say goodbye to you guys and hand over to Ty. And that's it, for me.
Wow. And just like that, boom, it's already another session gone. But mindsetters doesn't mean that you guys now switch off as well. Make sure you keep using the Facebook page, chat to each other, talk to each other. The whole point of this Facebook page is for you guys to communicate. But mindsetters, this is where I, as Ty, sign off and say thank you very much for joining us and take care, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.